Thank you for joining me today. I'm Dr. Jacqueline Priestley. You have tuned into Let's Talk About It. And my guest, Pastor Garry Ansdell, thank you so much for being here. We are doing a second episode, and we're talking about families and challenges. And the myth kind of is that, well, if you're a pastor and you love Jesus, of course everything goes perfectly in your family, and that's not the case. And I want to mention who you are for our viewers, because Pastor Garry has an amazing church in Bellflower called Hosanna Christian Fellowship, and it's also known as Hosanna Chapel. I've been. It's great. I highly recommend that you go. I love the worship and the way your worship team leads the people into the throne room of God and the tenderness of God's heart. It's a wonderful congregation, wonderful people. You've been pastoring for 42 years.
Yes.
And then you're also an ambassador for a world outreach called Ambassadors for Peace. And then you're chaplain for the Lakewood Sheriff's Department. Sometime I'd like you to come back, and I want some stories, and I want some things where you've really seen God show up, and because those guys have a challenging.
Boy, do they, especially now.
Yeah. So, and then you're executive director for domestic violence classes for the courts of California. So you're impacting a lot of lives.
Yeah.
You don't seem like you have time to be bored. And then you've got 5 adopted children.
Yeah.
And you've I want to say your marriage has survived all of this. You've been married for
54 years this August.
54 years.
I was 19, she was 18 when we got married.
That is an amazing accomplishment. Well, you guys grew up together then.
Actually, we knew each other in junior high.
Yeah. You know, I've heard of couples who, it's interesting that they were high school sweethearts and they grow together and morph together into adulthood, and they're just like glue. They have that lifetime love, and it's pretty amazing.
We ran and owned our own restaurant together, real estate agents together. Anyway, that was just a lot of things.
Wow. Now, we were talking about the different challenges that you've had with the children who you adopted, and you're also now helping to raise 3 grandchildren.
We are the guardians.
You are the guardians. And then and then we were that, I mean, you are amazing people.
A 10-year-old,
and you're still smiling.
And a 5-year-old.
And when we were laughing in the last session, you were saying we never realized as we adopted these kids what the timing would be, because they were all teenagers all at the same time.
Yeah. So they're all in high school
together.
Did
you get combat pay for that?
Yeah, we should have, I think. We should have.
And we were talking about you have one of your sons is autistic, high functioning autism. We were talking about that, and then you said a lot of things really started to change and go downhill when he got exposed to kids who were doing drugs.
Yeah.
But we were talking during the break in preparation for this session, and you were mentioning something that I would just like us to point out to families. You said there were kids who were telling Alex they were taking advantage of the fact that he was autistic and didn't understand a lot of things socially, and he would just do what his peers would tell him. And they would
be their friend.
To be their friend. And they would tell him to lay down on the yellow line between 2 traffic lanes with cars whizzing by him, and those kids all thinking, oh, that's funny. And and here he is inches away from
somebody could have missed
a distracted driver could have crushed him. And it's just, and you were saying that these were kids from Christian families.
They were good families. And the kids have grown up to be great kids. So at that time they bullied.
Yeah, they bullied and they took advantage of. And I want to mention this to families. None of us are perfect. It's best if we don't try to wear that hat or hide behind the myth of, well, we're a Christian family, so we're perfect and we have no problems. The reality is teenagers can be real knuckleheads, not think preventatively, and they can also...
Consequences is not a part of their vocabulary.
So please, 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 as parents, You know, and you'll probably get the response from the kids, I know, Mom, I know, Dad. But even if you get that response, plant that seed frequently. You be the one at your school who's kind. You be the one at your school who does think preventatively, who does watch out for the underdog. And to instill in your kids to have the courage to do that, because it takes courage. It's crazy times.
Yeah.
It's crazy times, and I shudder to think what could have happened to your son. And you said they also tried to get him to jump off of.
Yeah, from a garage from the house to the garage, and they knew he wouldn't make it, and he
Of
didn't,
course.
you know, and just barely hit the thing, and then slid down, landed on his back, and they just laughed, you know.
Yeah, and that stuff isn't funny.
No, it's not.
It's very mean. It's very ugly-hearted. It's very cruel, and something's really wrong.
Yeah. They had him drink things, eat things, do all sorts of things
Yeah.
that they just thought was funny, you know, and they knew he'd do it because he didn't know how to respond.
He didn't know how to respond, and he wanted friends. It's not funny, and please talk to your kids about this kind of thing. And you don't talk to them attackingly. You know, you can even make it neutral. If you ever see, keep it neutral. If you ever see someone taking advantage of someone else or doing this, you be the one that has the courage to stand up. Especially if you're a church-going family and they're being raised and taught about Jesus. Well, let's not have Jesus for the sake of being religious. Let's have Jesus with skin on when it comes to practical living and kindness and.
I think what one specific thing that he said that makes the most sense to the kids as far as how they evaluate their life, and that is, do unto others as you'd have them do unto you.
Yeah.
Just always come back to that. Is that the way you want to, want to be treated?
Yeah, and if you
do?
didn't,
and they can translate that, they start to learn that process.
Yes,
That's
yeah, and kids need help with this. They need help to have courage, and it's important as parents. I had someone very wise teach me this. I did not learn it with my daughter. I was a very reactionary parent, but I did learn it. This counsel came to me, and I did apply it with my son, and it was very good counsel. This friend said, no matter what you hear your kids say, learn to keep a poker face, because if you keep a poker face and you are not reactionary, they'll learn, oh, I can talk to my mom or dad.
Yeah,
they
true.
won't blow up at me.
Yeah.
And it's amazing if they think you're safe to talk to.
Yeah, what they'll say.
What they'll say and what they'll tell you.
Yeah.
And then give yourself, it's okay if you even wait a day to gather your own thoughts, go in the bathroom, stuff a towel in your mouth and be hysterical and cry and rant and talk to God and I want to do it, however you feel, because you're going to have those feelings. Give it 24 hours and then go back and talk to your youngster about, with wisdom and calm, you'll have a lot more communication. Yeah.
I think if my kids had not been as childish as they were, and the things they got in trouble with, getting arrested and all sorts of things, if it hadn't been for that, and we raised them in a biblical fashion.
Of course,
But if it hadn't been for that, I would have written a book of what a great pastor I am and how I raised these wonderful, wonderful children because of everything I did right.
And the myth would have continued.
Yes, that's right. But
we love Jesus, therefore everything's perfect in our lives.
You'll love this. I had the police knock on my door at 2:00 in the morning.
And that's always fun.
And they've got several cop cars, and they says, "Is that your son?" Yeah. Is that your son? Yes.
Oh.
They don't look alike at all.
No, of course not, because they're adopted.
And is that your son? Yes. So, well, none of them look alike. That's why we're asking.
Sure.
And they said, no, they're adopted. And
They're brothers.
Oh, okay. We thought they were lying.
Yeah.
Right? So they bring him up and they said, aren't you the pastor of that church there on the boulevard there? Yeah.
Yep.
And isn't your dad the mayor? Yeah.
Oh, Gary. Oh, God.
So you learn humility really quick.
Yes. And Tinkerbell is flying over you, waving her magic fairy dust wand, and everything's perfect all the time. Yeah,
They all snuck out together and got caught.
Sure.
So anyway.
Yeah. Well, they were bonding as brothers.
Sure, exactly. That's
Just
what they thought.
different. That's what they thought. Yeah. Yeah. Bonding spelled STUPID. So let's go back to Alex. You were saying all these different things were happening, and then he started to be exposed to, kids who were using drugs. And there, unfortunately, there's probably not a family out there who can't say one of the kids was, I know with our family it was my brother. And so drugs is never a good thing, and be teaching your kids not to use it and how to say no. So how old was he when he started to get exposed to that? And
Well, as best we can figure out, he probably about 16, but we didn't know it at the time.
Yeah.
And then more serious drugs, the meth probably just as in his senior year, and then so as he was 18, 17 and a half, 18. And again, for me, the autistic mind, very concrete thinker.
Yeah.
When I'm 18, I can do what I want.
Yeah.
So a lot of things you don't do, now I can do. He didn't relate to, now I can do, but I shouldn't do. Now I can do. It's just that simple. So it opened up a whole world to him, and he was around people that would do things like that, and it was available to him. And I mentioned the last one, he tried to run me down with a truck, and he was mad. One time he came up and he had this long sword that was a dumb thing for me to give him when he was a kid, but it was something that he wanted, you know. And he had it hung up on the, you know, it was a historic kind of thing. And he was standing in the yard early in the morning, and he was like this, standing in front of me with it, you know.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay,
because you were saying
in the name of Jesus, put it down.
Yeah.
And he did. I said,
okay.
Because
you were saying he would mimic things that he saw in movies because he interpreted that as real life.
the consequences weren't the issue.
Yeah, he
Exactly.
wouldn't think about consequences.
And we had him in
wow.
autistic classes specifically to get help, you know, additional to going to school and everything else. But it just got worse until, you know, he finally got arrested. Some people just say, well, go in here, and, you know, so he'd steal, rob, whatever. And so he was in jail early on. And in jail, he found out just by watching what they do.
Yeah.
And so I remember one time I said, hey, I heard there was a riot in the jail the other day, you know. He goes, yeah, I didn't get involved. He says, none of one of them knew how to fight. And that's the kind of thinking he had.
Yeah.
But he's got a scar on his face because he got attacked. Some guys tried to kill him. And big mistake for them.
You can see.
He's about 6'1". He's strong as an ox, and he's just.
And
but I don't think he knows fear. And
I've heard that lots of times autistic people, that's an emotion they don't necessarily experience.
Yeah, doesn't relate like we would think, like we think it should obviously relate.
Yeah.
It's a consequence thing that doesn't.
So how long was he in jail, or was he in jail more than one time?
He was in jail several times, and what I did was each time, the first 2 times, I gave him one pass and just said, you know, if you do this again, I'm not going to bail you out, and I'm not going to do these other things. When we did it again, I didn't help him as far as money while he was in jail to help him with food or whatever. And then he got out, got his life together a little bit, tried working at different places, but it didn't work out well for him.
So how old was he at that point?
Got in trouble again, and he was in his 20s.
Okay.
And then he got arrested and was sent to prison. And he was there for about 2 years, maybe 3 years.
Wow.
And he came out a little tougher, a little harder, a different kind of concept.
Yeah.
And I can remember telling him, look, don't do these things again, because next time there's going to be somebody in there that has a right to carry an arm, you know, to have a weapon in there, and they could shoot you.
Yeah.
So don't do that. Well,
do you think he actually understood that concept? Because they do have difficulty with consequences.
Not in reality.
Yeah. Wow.
No.
So this is heartbreaking to me, because you have a autistic person who ends up in jail because they're not wired on the inside to get consequences of actions. They see something in a movie, or foolish people tell them to do something and they want friendship, so they say okay, or they start to do drugs, or they think, well, I'm this age, I can do this. But socially they don't process, and the consequences will be,
That's what they don't
they
do.
very much are in the moment.
Yeah.
So he's in jail, and then he gets out of jail and he's doing better, and then he was back in jail again.
Yeah.
And you said he went up to prison.
Yeah. But let me give you an explanation of that.
Yeah.
If we're sitting here, and let's say I don't have any water,
And I've
and
got
I'm
water
thirsty,
here.
you know. I'm not going to ask you. I'm just going to take it.
That's what an autistic person would
And
do.
you say, that's rude. And it might be rudeness or it might be autism.
Oh, yeah,
I could sit here and
there's
go,
no consequence that that's socially inappropriate.
I'm doing this little play at school, so I'll take that camera with me. And he'd go, what are you doing with the camera? You're walking out the door. Well, I need it.
No concept of stealing.
No, that is not there.
And
He could walk through
wow.
a 7-Eleven, say, and take a Pepsi or whatever out of there, you know, and just start drinking it. You can't do. You got to pay for it. Well, he was high functioning, so he would get some of that out of obedience. We have a friend that she finally turned her child at 38 years old into full-time care because he would walk by people who are eating and he'd go, "Oh, French fries,"
and just
and they're going, "Wait, what are you doing?" You know?
Yeah, total
and she's got to
stranger.
explain he's a full-grown man and everything else. Autism, my eye, get your hand out of my food.
Yeah.
Or he'd go into a store and take something and just start eating or drinking. You got to
Yeah.
pay for that, buddy. And she's going, "I'll pay for it. He's my son." And she literally, the stress she couldn't handle it
She
anymore.
couldn't take it anymore.
Alex a little bit less than that.
Yeah.
In the sense of comprehension, but still that was his first nature.
So how long what did he go into prison for?
Well, he robbery, and it blew my mind that happened. So I told him I'm not going to court, nothing, because regardless of what it is, there's a point at which you have to deal with the consequences as God would.
Yes.
And just say, okay, I can't do this. We can pray.
Yeah.
And by God's loving grace, he gets to court. Regional shows up for him, and they're great with this stuff because he's a client for life. When you're autistic, you're autistic. And they bring in a file literally about that thick on all of his stuff that he's been through in school and getting in trouble and all these other things, and gives it to the DA and gives it to the public defender. And the DA goes, "I don't believe in this nonsense." The public defender says, "Neither do I." Oh, good. 27 years. And tells him he needs to take the deal. And the judge said, "Well, I do believe in this kind of stuff."
Yeah.
And he says, "But I tell you what," he says, "I'll give you 6 years, no short time, and I suggest you take it because I'm going to add to it that they make you a trustee out of the gate, which is odd.
Yes.
Make you a trustee and within 6 months put you in the California Fires Department, Cal Fires."
Oh my
And he says, "I'm going to
gosh.
recommend that. I can't guarantee it'll happen."
Yeah.
So he goes, Twin Towers is where they have the mentally, every time he got arrested, that's where he would go. So he's there for a while, then he goes to prison. And he was a trustee, so he's in the library and he's delivering books and doing all this other stuff. Got to a place of trust and they put him in the Cal Fires program. Well, he got in the Cal Fires program, and the neat thing about that is, they say, "Okay, there's a fire, go in and you risk your life." Okay.
Yeah, no fear.
So they trained him. But it was like, okay, you need to run up that hill with a 70-pound backpack and all this stuff, and you've got 2 minutes to get there. Go. Okay. And so he became the best of the best.
Oh, yeah.
He just did whatever they said, do it. They said, we got problems. If a fire comes in, you take this blanket. It's just aluminum kind of.
Yes, I know
cover
them
over
well.
it. You dig a hole, you get in there quick. Okay. And so he's done that.
No
you know?
fear.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, that was weird. That was about the extent of it.
So he's a firefighter.
He is a firefighter. Now he's
Now
in
we're
a special...
going to have pictures. We're asking our gal Katie, who helps with all of this so wonderfully. Katie's you've got a before picture of Alex
This with the
and
spiked hair
his,
and all
that
this
stuff,
yeah.
and then him on a fire truck in the fire.
Yeah.
So how long has he been?
He's been incarcerated and in Cal Fires for over 4 years. Yeah.
So was he helping with these big fires that were going?
Yeah, and out of the
How wonderful!
over 1,000 guys that are involved in the prison system in that.
Yeah.
They took 20 and put them in a special program to get them to be in a place where when they get out, they could be full time.
Yeah.
So he's in the process of that now, and he graduates from that in a month. And
My goodness.
And literally, he is one of the best. I mean, he's just. This is what you do, and they have it's kind of an OCD a little bit, you know that?
Oh, yeah.
And so he just, okay, that's what you do, and this is how you do it. And he was really nervous about taking the test because he had to get an EMT and he's got the EMS he's already gone through.
Well,
He's certified with,
I've done both of those, and
Okay. You know.
the study was,
Yeah.
and I'm a hyper warp student, and I love study. It was daunting.
They have to do that in 4 weeks.
Oh, I did it in 4 months.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my, and it was
He
hard.
said you either make it or you're out.
Oh my gosh, 4
Yeah,
weeks?
yes.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I can't even.
And so he said, I don't know that I can do this. Because the first test he took, he got like 45 or 65. It wasn't enough. You got to get over 70 or 80, whatever
Oh
it is.
yeah.
And I said, look, first of all, I'm so proud of you that you're in the program
Yes.
and what you've done. So don't worry about failing. You haven't failed, first of all.
Sure.
Secondly, I said, remember when you were a kid and for the summer, I said, just what would you like to do? He said, I want to play with frogs. Well, he ended up with all of these frogs, and I mean a lot of them. And so he wrote on his own, at the end of the summer, a 32-page report on frogs. And I mean, it was very detailed. And I don't even know where he got the books and the stuff, or there was no internet, you know, it wasn't going on. So anyway, I just explained that to him. I said, look, you did that, and in school, you got good grades. You really did. He said, I did?
I had no memory of it.
He never even looked at him, I don't think.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, actually, you're very bright.
You're very
and
smart.
so
Yeah.
I am. I said,
Oh.
yes, I said, you
Oh.
are. So just read the material, believe that you will remember.
Remember it.
Don't get worried, and just take the test. Passed all the way through.
Yeah.
80 on everything. 80
Oh
plus
my
90,
stars.
Yeah.
Now, when he gets out, he has something that's given him purpose, focus,
Yes.
accomplishment. He's a hero.
Mhm.
He's doing good. It's constructive. I mean, the list is long of what he's doing. But because he's got, jail time and stuff, would he actually be able to be hired by the fire department? Or is there?
And that's what the state's
how
going
does this
through right
work?
now, is changing the law and processing all of that. He's literally in the first class. And they've got 5 other classes now because of that, to follow his, because they've got a good example. And so Lord willing, it'll work out.
So God has.
But he's already certified with Homeland Security, with FEMA, with
Look at that.
all these other programs
Look
because
at
of what he's
that.
already learned and done. So if it's not in this state, it'll be in other states. But yeah, I think it'll work out because the whole idea of
Pastor
going through
Garry.
jail, I think now and more in the future, is going to be like they have in Europe, and that's the concept of to change your life and give you the tools for that.
Yes.
Not to just incarcerate you because it's
Yeah.
like a spanking, It's
Yeah.
punishment. It's supposed to be a little of both, I think.
Yeah.
And that's what this program does. So, I mean, there's
Oh my
punishment
goodness.
enough. Just
Yeah. Yeah.
But and well deserved. He knows that.
Yeah.
But what he knows differently now is through prayer, through going through consequences, all of that, is that when that urge to do something that's wrong is there, backs up, he gives himself time.
See, that is remarkable
Yeah,
right
and
there.
it really is.
That's a real growth and a.
It is. He
It's
gives
like
himself
like there's a
time.
rewiring
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
That
And
there's
it's changed him just completely. The one thing that he is now that he never was as a child is thankful.
isn't that
And that's a
interesting?
consequential issue.
Yes.
I have this going for me now, and therefore I'm thankful. And he understands that's a consequence of what he's done for the last 4 years.
Yes.
Is abide by the rules, do the
Yes.
right thing, all that.
Now we've only got 3-4 minutes, and then we've got to wrap it up. But he's grown up in a family that loves God, serves God, and you're a fun person. So I know it wasn't this rigid, obey the rules.
No.
You're a fun.
Yeah, no, we
you're,
had a good
and you're
time. When they were kids,
interesting.
we
Yeah, you're interesting, and your wife is too. So, but with the lack of consequences and things, did you have to approach him becoming friends with Jesus and loving Jesus and being able to respond to Jesus? Did you approach it a little differently than the normal way? And again, we've got 3.5 minutes, but
I'm sure there's not any one way, but what we learned with him
Mm-hmm.
was to teach him more the attitude of gratitude. and that God loves him no matter what.
Yeah.
And as bad as literally all the kids, all of them,
Yeah.
have gone through severe trouble and arrest and everything else.
My goodness.
One didn't really get arrested, but her sister used her name.
Oh,
And
great.
so she says, "Oh, now all 5 of us have been
Oh,
arrested."
yeah.
She's got a great sense of humor. But the one thing they've all known, no matter what, is they know they're loved, and they know that's because of the love of God. And for each one, we've seen that develop the gratitude, which is it brings them closer to Jesus. And
It
what
does.
He wants, yeah.
And when you have gratitude, that can be a powerful factor to not mess up
Yeah.
the lane you're in, where you're walking with God, you're being productive. Gratitude is a good place to live out
Yeah,
of.
totally.
It changes your perspectives. Changes your perspectives about yourself. It brings honor to, you don't want to do anything to hurt your family.
Yeah.
Gratitude is far-reaching.
Yeah.
And if that can be grasped and developed, instead of entitlement or instead of all these other things, I am so excited for your son. Now, you said that he changed his name. He changed his own name.
Yeah, he changed
You
his
mentioned
name, and the reason why he changed his name, at first I was insulted, and I said, what are you changing your name for? And he says, because it's got too many triggers for me from the past.
So he didn't want to be called Alex anymore.
No, so he's Calvin.
He changed his name to Calvin.
Yeah, which is
Isn't that
actually his
interesting?
birth name when we adopted him.
Oh, for goodness sakes.
Yeah. It's funny, because being Korean, they had some language problems with some letters.
Sure.
So we asked him, what do you want your name to be? It was Calvin. And he says, Alex.
Alex.
Aaron, and we said, "Are you sure?
Yeah.
Because you can't say it." You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. That made me laugh.
So Calvin
So
is
now
easier
it's-
for him to
he
say.
uses Calvin now. But
Yeah.
but it was interesting because he just didn't want the triggers anymore.
He wanted a new name because he knows he's a new
and it's
person.
like Paul and Saul,
And he has a
I
new
see
life.
that as a big difference in his
Wow.
life. And that again is a concrete thinker,
Yes.
an artistic thinker. You say,
Yes.
because you're saying you've changed, and he says, yes. And so, okay, Alex. He goes, no, I have changed. So my name is
Calvin.
yeah. Otherwise, I haven't changed, right?
That's very.
You see the logic?
Yes,
Yeah.
because he's that concrete logic. That is very significant for him.
Yeah.
Oh, and I hear healing there. I hear
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot of answers to prayer, and I bet that gives you hope toward the other kids that
Oh.
maybe aren't quite across the finish line the way you'd like them to be
Yeah,
yet.
they're working on their testimony.
Yeah,
That's for sure. Yeah, they are.
We have tests and we have monies, and then when we finally get it together under the love of the Lord, then we have a testimony.
Yeah. They're
Oh my goodness. Well,
they're doing good.
I want to thank you for being so vulnerable about sharing your challenges as a pastor, as a dad, and you adopted privately, so you weren't getting money from the state or anything. You
No,
adopted because the Lord
Yeah.
told you to, and
Yeah.
each situation was unique, and they were private, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah, and
so it's not like
the
you
thing
had
about this,
financial assistance.
some people look at that now. I used to own a T-shirt company, Living Epistles. My partner and I
Yeah.
started it, and I made good money doing that.
Sure.
So I've had that, and we've also been bankrupt.
Yeah.
In the midst of all of this,
Yeah.
but I've had some people go, "Oh, you adopted kids so you can get money."
No.
It was never about that. We got health care
Nothing further for
from the state,
for
and that was a blessing. for
one or
two of
two?
them, for the
Two out of the
last
five,
two,
and
because
the
they were
rest-
in the
Yeah.
different county and different
Wow.
issues. But
Well-
so it's not about that. It's about
Yeah,
love. It's about
that's about love.
relationship. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter if you're rich or poor.
and letting God
It doesn't
use
matter.
your heart and
Yeah.
your life to
Yeah.
help change lives. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. I love you in the Lord, and I appreciate you so much. And I want to thank you for joining us today. If you've got challenges in your family,
Take your water. No,
know
I'm
that
kidding.
know that God is for you. He's on your side. He hears your cries for help, and have hope. And it's okay to share with other people that you need help. So I'm Dr. Jacqueline Priestley. You've been watching Let's Talk About It, and I hope you'll be with us next time.
The preceding program was brought to you by the Holy Spirit Broadcasting Network, HSBN Television.